Hello everybody. Hello Valérie Blankenbyl, pardon. Blankenbyl. Bonjour Valérie Blankenbyl, réalisatrice donc de ce premier film que nous vous avons montré en compétition internationale long métrage pour le démarrage en grande pompe de cette édition 2021 de Vision du réel. Je voulais juste rappeler avant de continuer en anglais avec notre interlocutrice, que les internautes qui suivent cet échange sur YouTube peuvent intervenir à tout moment, poser des questions sur le bouton, via le bouton qui est situé en bas de leur écran, de manière à ce qu'elles nous soient transmises et que je puisse les traduire pour la réalisatrice et qu'elle y répondra donc en anglais. So, welcome back. We are very pleased to welcome you again here in Vision du Réel. Valérie, you were here a few years ago with, I think that it was your first features. It was called Manasapna, Mother's Dream. It was a choral portrait about 6 surrogate mother you filmed in India. So somehow in a clinic in India, so somehow it was already a bubble. And you come back here this year on the shore of the lake with another project called The Bubble, which is also somehow a choral portrait of not so small community, because it's a booming community in Florida, Central Florida, near Orlando, near Disneyland. And you filmed during a bunch of time those old people who come here to add, and it's quite surprising in the mouth of one of your characters. It's quite surprising to hear that this place will add 10 years of their life. How did you happen to enter in that community who seems to be open, who seems to be also a dream island? And as far as we go through the bubble just explodes, and you show us the behind the scene, what's going on behind the scene.
So yeah, indeed, I'm very happy to be back at Vision du Réel. Manasapna was my second feature film, but I tend to find topics find me that take place in these microcosms, in these little worlds that work with their own rules. And this is definitely the case for the villages in Florida. It's a place that is that follows its own rules, that has its own little reality, and that is sort of separate from the outside world. And the film deals with that. And I was looking for spaces where older people live comfortably, or where they feel more comfortable than in, let's say, normal society. And my producer, Dario Schoch, he and we were working on this for quite a while, thinking of different spaces to film in. And then he came across an article about the villages, and he sent it to me, and it just fit the bill, because we were thinking of how it is to age in our society, how it is to retire, what makes you a productive part of society, and how society deals with you when you're not. And we wanted to see if there are spaces where people self-segregate, where they decide to live and to not be part of, like I said, let's say normal society. And the villages very much seemed like that, and I was immediately fascinated by it. And when you see this, see something and it grabs you like that, you know that you've maybe found something that is worth filming. And I went there and researched. And yeah, when I first went there and saw it, and I talked to the people there, I knew that this is what I want to make a film about. Yeah.
When you enter in the villages, I suppose that you are beginning to cast people, was it difficult to find characters that was eager to share their life and also their inner life and their reflection about what is going on where you're getting old? And I asked this question, sorry, because at the end of the movie, there is a cartoon saying that the management somehow put some pressure about some villagers not to talk with the international team. So it's quite surprising for us as viewer, because you are always dealing with borders between private and public spaces. And with the editing, you always trying to build that spaces, what is in, what is out, and you are trying to find your place in between.
Yeah, so it was not difficult to find people who would share their stories with us. It was the opposite. You would arrive there and everybody would tell you their story and would want to tell you their story, because I had the feeling, because we are not the same age group, there was a certain wish to explain their reasons for living there to us, a younger generation, and that was quite positive. And the people in general there are very open and happy to talk about their lives and how they feel about living there, and they love living there so much that they really want to share it. They're very, very eager to share it. And what's more difficult is to not make the whole film sound like a propaganda movie for the villages, because the people that live there are so fulfilled and happy, and you could see that in the film. It seems fake. It seems like you couldn't script it that way, because they're so content. So like you said, is it difficult to find somebody sharing with their inner worlds? That maybe was a little bit more tricky, to actually spend enough time with the people so that they would really open up and also talk about the aspects of their lives that maybe were a bit more difficult. Because of course people want to show their most successful face, or their most successful image of themselves that they also feel comfortable with. So it takes a bit of time always, I guess, to get people to open up and to feel comfortable with you, because also who are we that they should trust in us? So you spend some time together and you become friends, and then you have that a wonderful relationship that you need trust for. But yes, there was a huge contrast between the trust of the people that we filmed with and the relationship we had with them, and the relationship that we had with the management of the villages and the company that is behind that place. And we would have liked to also interview them and make them part of the film and see what they thought, but they're very, very private and they don't give interviews. We knew that in advance, that it would be difficult, if not impossible. But what we didn't expect to that extent is how actively they would try to stop us from filming. But we were lucky in that respect, that the villages were built with taxpayers' money. So all the public spaces are public, and nobody can be stopped from going in there, even though there are gates everywhere and cameras everywhere.
But when you know the tip, as far as just to push on the button,
exactly. So it is more. It looks more intimidating than it actually can be, because as soon as you know that you are allowed to be there and you have a right to be there, it's fine to be there, then there's not so much that even that management can do, but they exert a huge amount of power and control over the community and its inhabitants as well. And they definitely gave us a hard time while shooting, and it was tricky for us to maintain a positive and trustful relationship with our protagonists, because of course they became insecure as well when they were contacted by the management to not continue filming with us. So it was tricky, definitely. And I'm not the kind of director that likes to investigate and to do things that are, on the border of legality or anything like that. I wasn't intending to make an investigative piece. It was supposed to be a film that gets very close to the protagonist, and something. I prefer to make films with people rather than just about them, but I see it as a collaborative effort. And so I always told them, if you don't want to be filmed, just tell me and we will not film, because that's not my goal. And I think we managed to do this balance quite well, while showing at the same time, and hopefully being transparent. Hopefully the viewers see that as well, with how difficult it was there. And
that's why you make entering on the scene that that character, who's calling Lauren Ritchie, the columnist of the All on the Sun, which seems to be your guide in the back room, in the dark, something that is hidden by the management, that
yes,
wasn't willing to answer your questions.
Yes, she was a wonderful protagonist, and really important for us, because she could shed some light on especially the financial aspects of the community. And she's one of the very few journalists who actually dares to write about them, and who's been doing that for years. And she knows so much about it that she's also just very informative to talk to, because one of the hardest things there was to find facts and to actually find information about the place. There are such vastly different numbers, even just about the inhabitants, the size of the place, everything is not easy. And she was a very good resource, and I really liked also talking to her. She's got such a cool, dry humor. And I think also for us in the edit, it was really important. You mentioned before this balance between inside and outside. Together with my editor, Nela Merki, we worked a lot on that, how to show the outside of the community, how to show the inside, and also how to try not judge one place in a different way than another, or judge them at all, or value them in a different way. And I think that was really also our challenge, and I think Nela did a wonderful job at creating that balance between outside and in.
Yeah, but through the editing process, you don't judge, but you give your own point of view. I mean, when you are filming the nature in the garden of that firefighter, retired firefighter, saying that he loves, for his part, living in the woods in that beautiful nature, and the sequence just after that, we saw a caterpillar just destroying all the landscape. So you give us your own point of view in that condition, when you are also giving voice to the Black community, which is outside, and with some farmers who are trying to defend their land. You are taking position in a way.
Yes, that's true. I definitely cannot hide that I have an opinion on this place, and even though I have made friends on both sides, and I can understand both sides and both reasons for thinking and for living, and I definitely have a position, and I'm glad you saw that. It's maybe not very obvious to some people when they see the film, but to me it is as well. So we definitely found it hard as a team, even the cameraman Joe Berger and our sound man, Benoit Barrault, it was sometimes hard to be and to move between the two worlds, because we lived inside of the villages for 3 months. So we were really part of it, and we breathed and lived this place. And then you would go outside to Bill, to his wonderful oasis of, nature. And it would be such a contrast just to experience it ourselves, that we felt we had to capture it on camera. And it's not that easy, because on camera, the villages themselves, they look wonderful. They look so green and so lush as well. And some things you can only experience in person, like that the grass is actually really not nice to walk on. And that it's unhealthy to walk on because it's sprayed so much against the insects, and how little awareness
One
there
of your
is,
characters said, oh, here it's wonderful. There are no bugs. The mosquito.
Exactly.
What is a mosquito?
Exactly. There's absolutely no awareness of that. And I definitely have an opinion on that. I think it's that really shocked all of us, that it is seen as a positive thing that there are no insects there. I think that definitely our age group has more awareness on what it means if there are no insects anymore. And so there were definite certain aspects of life there that I found shocking and also questionable. Yeah.
You said just before, Valerie Blankenbyl, that your characters are just happy to live there. They are also happy to be to get rid of sometimes family, all the problems north of the country where they come from, as if they were just going back from what is today's America, what is today American reality. But you also show us that there are also there are models for the old people you show us are also represent somehow the fulfillment of the American dream. They are white, they are wealthy, they are Republican, there are we guess that they all vote for Trump when they honk with that very ridiculous sequences in their small cars, just honky, honky, honky for Trump. So you take also position about their own political view, because they pretend not to be involved again. But when you are just organizing in a social club a meeting around Eisenhower, or where you are showing just shotguns with one of your characters, there is an imaginary, a political imaginary, which is very precise.
Yes, that was really interesting for me as well, to see how they were so they really desired to leave everything behind and to be separate from the rest of the world. And at the same time, they were very involved politically and are quite the political force. If you think about it, there are 150,000 people that have money. They're not rich, but they have some capital, and they donate a lot. And they're a political force that has changed stuff in the whole area and in Florida as well. And that community becomes bigger and bigger. It's the fastest growing municipal area in the whole of the US. So they're getting more powerful. The family that owns the community is politically very powerful with the Republican Party. So people, when I came back from research, people were joking that I wouldn't be able to travel to the US anymore, as soon as they know that I'm making a film there. But that didn't happen. But of course, there's, that also surprised me, that on the one hand, they want to be completely separate from everything and not hear anything about social responsibility and all of that. But at the same time, all of them go voting. Their voter turnout is huge there. So they don't leave politics at the door. They don't talk to each other about it, which I think is a development that has happened in the US in recent years, that neighbors don't talk about politics anymore, because otherwise you lose friends all the time. So they kept telling me, when I asked about politics, they, I think because I'm European, they could talk to me about it, but they'd rather not talk about politics to each other. That is something. And around the elections, there were clashes between the Democrats that live there and the Republicans that live there.
Oh, are there Democrats living there?
There are Democrats living there. There's a Democratic club, and but I don't envy them there. It's not too fun, I think, to live there if you're a Democrat.
How did you work in the editing process? Your narrative structure, because we have the impression that when we are going further and further and further, you manage to intertwine what is behind what we see, the landscape, the houses, the beautiful scenery, but somehow very fake. And it's also the case with your characters, because by the end of the bubble, they seem to have to become aware of their own mortality when they are talking about losing friends or losing a husband, which lives by your side and something like that, until this very last sequence, very strange, when that guy is just making a cover of a famous Radiohead hit, Creep, which sounds very, very good, because we did a very weird journey through those streets that are looking exactly the same wherever you go.
Yes. Well, the editing process was, we edited for about a year, and my editor Nela was extremely patient with me. And of course, with the pandemic, everything took a bit longer as well. But this idea to go from perfection to imperfection, and from looking at a facade or a film set like environment, not unlike a Truman Show, and to kind of start looking at the cracks and looking behind the facade. That was a concept that we had pretty much from the beginning, from the first time that I went there on research. And we were trying in different ways, how can we show this? One thing was the intro sequence with the golf carts. There's this choreography that we did with the golf cart drill team there. So we really sat down with them, we made the choreography, and that was a really wonderful idea that the cameraman Joe Berger had, to really take this intro sequence and have fun with it, because it's such a place that lends itself to have a bit of fun as well, and to sort of look at the kooky sides of it and see it, and start with this sort of film language also that is maybe more known in fiction films or series, TV series even, and then become more closer to reality and see more of the cracks of the community, go deeper with certain topics, even in the color scheme, sort of become less popping, less contrasty, less perfect, and then arrive at a point where it's maybe a bit uncomfortable for the audience, even because you have made this journey. And that was something that we really tried. It took quite a while for Nela and I to find the right balance of not being too much like a commercial, because in the beginning it just has this ideal world, utopian sort of feel to it, and not stay in that perfect bubble for too long, because in the beginning almost half of the film was like that. And we realized through testing and through, getting a lot of feedback, and also going through the rough cut service, which was very helpful, that it's too much of that. And we had to really try out how much of that bubblegum world can be, is productive for the film and works, without you feeling like, oh, what is this film? Is it trying to do this, or is it trying to do that? So it took a lot of testing and rewriting, and lots of patience of the editor, of the producers. So I'm very glad also that we had this time it's a luxury also to edit for this long and to have all the team behind you and support you during this time, to redo it as well. Sometimes, I mean, I wanted to stop and throw it all, and say, oh, I'm done, as probably everybody who's made a documentary or any film knows. But I think it's worth it that we pushed through it and that we reconsidered some of the concepts that I had from the beginning, that it doesn't work exactly like that, but let's try it a little bit different. Yeah.
Would you say, and it will be the last question because time is running, even in the virtual world, that you began to draw a thin line between something a place which appears to be a utopia, and then you made it somehow a dystopia?
Yes, we sometimes talked about these terms. I think it could be accurate, but only from the outside perspective, because I think for the people that live in the villages, this place really is a utopia. And in my experience, I have not found a single person who said that they don't like living there. And I think for them in there, not everybody, and people leave there, but the people who continue living there, they really love it. And so I could not say that this is a dystopia, because for them it's wonderful. For us on the outside, I think from our European perspective, and also being younger than the people that live there, it certainly would be a place that I would find very hard to live in, even though it is so enjoyable and there are so many enjoyable activities. The people are extremely friendly, and we had a lot of fun while we were living there. But there are just, certain aspects of the life there that we have already talked about that are just would be hard for me to live with, both the political and the environmental aspects, as well as the age segregation. I would find it extremely sparse in terms of life experience to just be separated from all other age groups. And I think that is a real shame. And it's also, for me, a big question for society in general, if this is really what is this really the best we can do as a society, to separate age groups, separate political attitudes and to separate ethnicity, separate everything. Is this really the best we can do to live in those bubbles? Not that this is the only bubble that exists, of course.
I would like to thank you very much, Valerie Blankenbyl, for that weird journey through the Florida's friendless hometown, as the motto of the villagers say. Wish you good luck.
Thank you for having me at the festival. I'm really happy.
We are very, very happy to welcome you again here in Vision du Réel with the bubble.
Thank you so much.
Take care, and hopefully we will see in the real life very soon.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.